All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this Sky webinar. Is your commerce media Gen AI ready? These are such incredible times. I mean, I know there's a lot going on, and every day it feels like there's this game-changing news about AI. But here at Sky, we want every marketer to feel excited. Along with this disruption, just remember there's so many wonderful possibilities that the AI era is going to bring. We'll be able to do all these things we've always wanted to do. And so before the actual big wave hits, which this, what we've seen up to this point is just a trickle. Um, the best thing you can do is be prepared. And today in this webinar, we'll explain what it means for your commerce media programs to be Gen AI ready and give you some real good expert tips on where you should focus your time right now. Little housekeeping information. We did solicit questions during the registration process. Thank you for those that sent them in, and we've baked them into this presentation already. But if you have questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A button. My colleague Dasha, hi Dasha, will be answering you there. If you have any sound issues, you all know Zoom. Just switch from computer to phone or phone to computer or restart the link. And the biggest question we always get is, will you receive the slides recorded? Yes. There will be an email at some point today, tomorrow, that will have link to the recording, link to the slides, and actually a couple reports that I reference within this. My name is Josh Dreller. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Sky, and I'm delighted to welcome our expert guest, Mariana, today. Mariana, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you, Joss. Hi, everyone. And Joss, thanks so much for having me. So my name is Mariana, and I'm the business director of the content department at VML Marketplaces. So what do? We support brands with end-to-end marketplace services across content, media, retail, and tech. And we're also WPP Center of Excellence for Amazon. In the content team specifically, we build content strategies based on audits and insights, and then we create, optimize, and syndicate that content across marketplaces globally. So this means also that today we help brands prepare for AI-driven discovery, GO, and agentic commerce so that their content is designed not just for shoppers, but also for the systems that shape how products are discovered and recommended. So I'm really excited to be here and talk about this with you.
Thank you. Yeah, and content is a huge part of getting ready getting your commerce media programs Gen AI ready, and we'll be diving into that today. All right, so look, this is the most no duh statement in any webinar you're going to see this year. The future of AI is coming, no duh. But what I want to focus today on is just how fast it's coming and the urgency that you need. Because in previous technology cycles that we've seen, there's usually this step evolution where there's this rapid period of innovation and then kind of a pause and a lull, and then another rapid spurt of innovation, another pause and lull. And the good thing for marketers is during those pauses, we could sit back, take an audit of what's happening, make great decisions, and set those things into place before the next period of innovation. But that's not going to happen with AI. We're not pausing, it's accelerating. The curve is getting steeper. And so what does this mean? We already know, Gen AI, everyone's going to be a Gen AI user at some point. And more importantly, for the people on this call and this webinar, the people that you're looking for, the shoppers you're looking for, are in that bucket. And it's not just ChatGPT, there's all these answer engines, and of course, the Gen AI embedded into our tools like the Google Suite and the Office Suite, the Gen AI embedded in our marketing suite like Sky Celeste, and even new marketing tools that are popping up. So there's just a lot of usage just in the marketing industry. And just to illustrate, just how fast this is happening, in 2 short years, more than 50% of all AI generated articles, English articles online, are AI generated, or at least 50% AI generated. And of course, the real place where this and the real focus for today is where it's going to impact shopping. And it's going to impact every bit of what we do. In fact, this just came out in a report yesterday. By 2029, there will be over 85 million AI assisted digital shoppers. And of course, the ones you're looking for are going to be in that bucket and probably are. And this has already happened. So in Q4 last year, Salesforce.com reported that AI and agents drove 262 billion in global holiday revenue, and that means some sort of influence anywhere in the product journey, discovery, awareness, all the way to pushing shoppers to retailers. That equated to 20% of all retail sales for the holiday season. And that's not just online sales, that's all retail sales. Traffic from answer engines doubled to retailers year over year. And again, shoppers from these tools converted 9x more than social media referrals. So the people coming from these answer engines are prepared, they've done their research, they've done their homework, they're ready to buy. So the value of this stream of traffic is even more important to you than you can even realize. In fact, already up to 1/5 of all referral traffic going to retailers is coming from these answer engines. Now, referral traffic, you remember your Google Analytics, is traffic coming from websites around the internet. So not search engines, not social media, et cetera, et cetera. So these are other websites pushing to retailers. So while this is still just, 1% of overall traffic, it's still growing and very material to today's discussion. If you think about where in the shopping journey GenAI will have the most impact, and for those of you on the webinar, look at this right now, the standard kind of, and post-purchase webinar web funnel. Where do you think GenAI? What's your if you had to point to one? Because of course it's going to impact everything we do. In fact, I was at a conference a couple years ago, and somebody said something that was just I'll never forget. They said AI will change every inch between you and your customers. Every inch of that interaction of that journey will be influenced by GenAI. But of course, I'm not saying anything that you don't know already. And soon the agentic revolution will be upon us. Not only will people be using AI to shop, but they'll have agents doing it for them. So think about that. What will that mean to you when the traditional online path to purchase is shortened to a 5-minute chat GPT conversation? How are you going to drive awareness? How are you going to drive consideration, conversion? Are you ready to market to both people and agents? That's what it means to be Gen AI ready. So look, we're in a crazy time. We're in a precipitous of a new age, and you are here. We haven't even hit the big wave yet. You've gone up, 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 click, 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 up to the apex. And what's coming is a wild ride. And so I will ask you, is your commerce media Gen AI ready? Mariana, how disruptive has all this been for your clients?
I would say that it's more of a strategic shift than a disruption so far. So most clients aren't seeing their business model turned upside down from a day to the other, but they do recognize that AI is changing how products are discovered, evaluated, and surfaced. And so they understand that they need to have a competitive advantage in this new environment.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to define what it means. And so there are just areas that we know are going to be important for the next era of Gen AI. And so think about these areas. So can Gen AI platforms find and accurately surface your products right now? I mean, this is something that's happening right now. This is what you have control over, something that you can really focus on before the real Gen AI wave hits. Is your product content structured for machines, not shoppers? I think about the same thing from Mariana from SEO, the way that we have to, we want to write this beautiful, manicured wordsmith web copy, but we also have to balance the way that search engines need to see our website. So we have to do some SEO things. Same things happening today. But I think there's a bigger gulf in this analogy because think about on a PDP, what impacts shoppers, emotional creative, emotional language, deals. With machines, they're just all about the facts. So, in fact, if you look at now the kind of best practices for agentic copy, it's really shorter. And it's just really just they want to know what the widths are, the dimensions, the options, all that stuff. So, how do you balance this kind of like, you know, both for machines, selling to machines and shoppers? Are you testing the new GenAI ad formats and enhancements to build expertise. What are you doing are you doing Performance Max? Are you doing AI Max for search with your search team, Advantage Plus with your social team? Are you in Rufus ads right now? Actually, a lot of you are. You may not even realize it. And what about your teams and your backend? Are they actively looking to improve performance and efficiency with GenAI, or are they just waiting for you to mandate it? Do you know how to measure the new impact of what GenAI will be doing to your sales? Are your creative teams ready for these new ad formats? And more importantly, do you have a strong POV on what's happening? This might even be the most important, which is why I put it in red. Um, Mariana, are these the kind of questions your clients are asking themselves right now and asking your agency?
Absolutely. Yes. And just these are the right questions, right? And that's why it's really important. The first step is a discovery session to understand the current status, to understand the current answers to these questions. And then from a content lens, again, we would move on with auditing. So understanding what is currently live, where are the gaps, and how we can target them.
Absolutely. And I know this for the webinar, folks, you're sitting there looking at this list on a slide. But so to really underscore the urgency, let me kind of pose these into a completely different way. What if your rivals were GenAI ready and you aren't? What if GenAI could already accurately and easily find your competitors' products? What if their product content was properly structured for machines right now? What if your chief rival has already been testing GenAI for ad formats and enhancements and already have a POV building expertise? Their teams using GenAI, they figured out how to measure the impact of AI and their creative teams were ready. And more importantly, had a stronger POV on you on where the opportunity is in the market right now in your category. So we're going to simplify things. I told you, let's be excited. Let's not be so worried about disruption. So today, what I'd like to do is present to you a paradigm of all these things that are impacting and will impact your commerce media programs from a Gen AI standpoint, but in three easy to kind of follow buckets. The first one being is a layer across existing commerce publishers. That's where Gen AI is going to happen first, and has already started to happen first across the publishers you already know and use. At some point, Gen AI will become probably a new commerce media channel, a new way to reach customers. And when something becomes a new channel, there are serious implications to that. We'll talk about that as well. And then finally, of course, the back end, the way that Gen AI is changing workflows, everything we do, how to save time, increase performance, drive smarter decisions across your program, and even one day fully run autonomously some of your program parts. So, Mariana, when you look at these three group areas, which area do you think your clients are kind of starting with right now?
Hmm. I'd say they start with the third area. So, how to save time, improve performance, and boost efficiency. Because I think naturally everyone wants to work in the most efficient way and bring the best results. But at the same time, the clients are also look at it as a layer across existing commerce publishers, because this is where the impact is already visible. The second one, I think, it's more of a test and learn right now.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so let's get into it. So the first one, we're talking about the new layers, a new layer across existing commerce publishers. Look, these big platforms, the Googles, the Amazons, the Walmarts, Meta, they don't need new ad systems. They already have fully functioning, mature ad systems and ad programs that all they have to do is bring Gen AI into. And that's what they have been doing. Um, and so while Gen AI is going to change everything that we know it, a lot of the structure of the advertising industry will stay the same. That's the good part. The same channels that you're thinking of now, they're still going to be there. It's just going to be a layer, of course, across where it's impacting each and every part of these channels. And so what you're seeing is these new flexible ad types. We're seeing them operate across surfaces. We're seeing them Gen AI used to target better and even used for create dynamic creative on the fly. I mean, for those of you that have been using Google responsive search ads, RSAs now for the last 5, 6, 7 years, you have been using Gen AI already, even if you didn't know it. And honestly, there will be new Gen AI ad formats and places and spaces where these ads will show up that we can't even imagine yet. AI is also showing up on the way that and changing the way that shoppers shop. I mean, Mariana, forget advertising for a moment. Just the new AI and retailers like Rufus and Sparky, how are they changing kind of how shoppers shop?
What they're changing is how people discover and evaluate products. So instead of shoppers doing all the filtering, the search, and comparison themselves, they now have a discussion with Rufus or Sparky, and these tools they help narrow down options much faster. So the shopping journey itself becomes less about typing keywords and more about having a conversation and having really quick access to information.
And think about how that's going to change, retail media. As normally today, as most people are moving around Amazon or Walmart or another retailer, they're, finding new options, they're thinking about new things, they're finding new ways to solve their problems in ways that they didn't even think they were going to solve their problems that way. And all that's going to happen in this little conversation bubble. So the ability to reach them while they're doing this is going to change, and it's going to happen mostly in these conversation little bubbles. And as we talked about, look, Gen AI is also going to become a new channel. I mean, we really think that. Um, we're obviously in the early days, but there's no reason to imagine that this agentic channel, or especially with answer engines, isn't going to rival some of the biggest channels that we have now. I think of the rise of this channel, it's kind of like the way that we saw retail media first emerge. When it first started, many brands and agencies just had their search terms running it. After all, the first ad formats were all search triggered and biddable. But as time went on, the only real way to take full advantage of this opportunity was to treat it like a real channel. Can you imagine having your retail media now just still being in the hands of just your search team and not having all the things that come with it? Um, this brings me to one of the questions that we got from when you registered. When you signed up to register, we got this question. How do brands, Marianne, if you could help me here, how do brands adapt to the growing trends of shoppers using AI platforms for their shopping needs instead of visiting their websites directly?
So these new channels are already 100% relevant to them, but we're still at the beginning. Most brands want to understand how they appear in LLMs, for example, how often they're being surfaced and which sources these models use to pull information and recommendations from. But most of them, for now, they don't have a dedicated workflow in place to feed those channels. So they're starting with auditing, understanding how often they're surfaced, but the next step is figuring out how to better feed those environments and show up more effectively within them. So I expect this to fully be integrated into their workflows really soon.
Yeah. And think about, when all this stuff becomes a real channel. To take full advantage of this opportunity, you're going to need new resources put in place. You're going to need dedicated strategies. So that means specialized teams and talent that understand these environments at a deep level, that have tested and tried different things and learned how best to approach them. You're going to need new tools. They're going to be very similar to maybe the ones you have now. They're probably going to be within the ones you have now, but you're going to need tech to manage visibility, to optimize presence, to activate spend, to optimize that spend, targeting, etc. Of course, with a new channel, you're going to need budget, real investment, a real line item, not siphoned from another channel, so that you make sure that those investments are followed through. And of course, with investment becomes scrutiny, becomes need to optimize. So finding ways and frameworks to track how AI-driven interactions will convert, and using new measurement and attribution techniques, and certainly the creative. So not just being ready for whatever creative the Gen AI throws at us, but also the best practice and expertise about what works best for both machines and for shoppers. you can't just take something you're using like on Facebook and throw it, or Instagram, and probably throw out these. Maybe early on you could do that, but certainly in order to take full advantage of the opportunity, you're going to have to really, really focus on this. And out of these, like just six areas, that I've thrown up here, Mariana, where do you think your clients will struggle the most with resourcing?
I think the biggest struggle is resourcing in terms of skills, time, and ownership. So we go back to the workflow that I mentioned previously. I think the real challenge is operationalizing everything, deciding who owns it, who monitors it, and how it becomes part of the standard operating procedures, the day-to-day ways of working.
And look, even though we're not here yet, really, as the agentic channel is still being formed, um, it's important to be ready, important to be prepared. So, are you having these conversations internally on what this is going to happen, and maybe even setting a threshold for realizing, okay, now we need to move this from being a practice area to a true channel, and what that means internally with your agency teams, and of course, in these areas, tools, measurement, budget, etc. Right now, of course, we're seeing that answer engine ads, the agentic ads are probably going to come out of search budgets, just like retail media did, because there's a question and answer and a bit of a search triggered thing going on. But of course, as it grows, it will need its own set of resources, like we said. So where are we right now with this agentic channel? Where it seems like every day something new happens. Someone, starts ad program, ends their ad program. We saw recently ChatGPT stop the checkout feature. This was going to be, remember Shop GPT last year was this big, huge disruption where they're not even going to go to retailers anymore. ChatGPT backed out of that, realized that the checkout function is not just putting a checkout button and a shopping cart on your answer engine. Um, users are shoppers are really, really, need and expect a true kind of customer service program. So they backed out of that and realized that their best, at least for now, and because things will change, but their best insertion into the shopping journey will be more at the top, discovery, awareness. At least that's what they said in their press release. But let's look across. So there aren't that many places to buy Gen AI ads just yet. And I've got some latest updates for you right here, all the way up to March 2026 this month. So look, there's ads within Microsoft Copilot, there's sponsored listings beneath the responses that launched in January, and there's display ads beneath the responses that have just really started that people are tracking. Google AI overviews, which are now appearing in over 20% of all Google searches, are expanding to desktop and global markets. We know that the goal is to have these across screens and be kind of seamless with the SERP. Uh, the the conversation portions of the retailers, like we said, they're not just there to help. They're not just going to be there as a glorified retailer search engine. They're also going to have ads. In fact, if you are running sponsored listings, sponsored products, sponsored brands right now, you are already opted in to Rufus ads. So you might be running them and not even realize. Um, Walmart Sparky ads launched here in January. We're already seeing that people who use Sparky tend to spend more, of course, because they're less looking around and kind of figuring out everything they need to do by the time they leave Rufus. Google um, uh, Google AI mode, you're going to see ads there. ChatGPT, of course, ads are already there. They launched last month. And then, there's, people who have started ads like Perplexity, and then they decided to pull the ads. They've in their press release, they said that they thought that the ads kind of reduced credibility in their answers and the value for subscribers. Uh, Gemini, their CEO said that they have no plans to sell advertising, but who knows? We'll see. Grok, Meta, no advertising yet. We know Grok, Elon Musk has said we're not going to do it. Zuckerberg said they probably will do it. And then, of course, in the Super Bowl, we saw Claude said, ads are coming to AI, but not to Claude. That's today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But as you can see, these ads are popping up everywhere, and they're just starting these answer engines, and they'll be kind of everywhere we can see. So what are marketers doing right now? You probably fall within somewhere on here. It's really, when we talk to our customers, we found that they're really all across the board. Some are jumping in immediately, kind of test and learn. Some are holding back and waiting to see. But of course, what you do, you should stay informed. You should get involved where you can, maybe test where you can. And as we've been saying, this webinar content, it's a very much such an important part of the Gen AI era. And right now, you have the most control. Um, Mariana, what are you seeing from your clients? What's the difference between the brands that are kind of like jumping in, moving fast, versus the ones that are holding back and kind of waiting and see?
I think the difference is action. So the brands that are moving fast, they don't wait for the whoops. They don't wait for the perfect playbook. They're already auditing, they're testing workflows, and they build internal knowledge as well across different departments, right? The brands that are still watching, they are still often in awareness mode, so they understand the shift, but they haven't translated it into action yet, I would say, yeah.
And this is your area of especially content. And really, this is the place you should be focusing on now. This is where you have the most control over all these areas that we've talked about. And what I'd like to do now is turn the webinar over to Mariana, and she can go and give you some really deep expertise in this area. Mariana?
Thank you. So yes, as you've already mentioned, for the last 2 decades, brands have optimized for visibility. So search rankings, shelf placement, paid search, but visibility is no longer the game. Selection is. So we've moved from a world where consumers browse to one where machines decide what gets seen. So if the machines don't cite you, humans won't find you. And this means that the battleground has shifted again. So the question is no longer how do I drive people to my product? It's how do I become the answer? And if you can move to the next one, Josh, please. Thank you. So product discovery is more challenging than ever. We have gone from thousands of products in the digital shelf to only a couple of them being recommended and surfaced by AI agents and assistants like Rufus. So in this agentic world, AI is acting as the advisor. So shoppers now, they interact with Rufus or Sparky, they ask questions. So AI is the advisor, it's the assistant, and it's slowly becoming the buyer. And what do brands need to do? They need to quieten the noise. So when it comes to content, to create content at scale and ensure consistent experiences across all touch points, there needs to be one source of truth. So brands need to find the winning zone between product experience and shelf experience, and they need to keep consistency across the channels. And what does this mean for content? The rules have changed. So traditional search is still relevant, keywords ranking on the first page, but the focus is shifting to GEO. So the importance of being recommended, being surfaced by AI assistants like Rufus for Amazon, Sparky for Walmart. And talking about Rufus for Amazon, shoppers have different ways to interact with Rufus and any AI assistant, but let's use Rufus as an example. So they may ask for recommendations. Which product should I buy? They may ask for a complete shopping list. So I'm organizing a kids party, and then Rufus will recommend a whole shopping list. Or they may ask specific questions about a product. So if we take a shampoo as an example, is it good for dry hair? Is it good for sensitive skin? And Rufus needs to have the answers. So the brands need to have content that is structured in a way that Rufus has these answers and recommends the product. And yeah, some numbers. Last year, more than 250 million customers used Rufus, and they are 60% more likely to complete a purchase. So you understand how things have changed and the real impact behind it. And what does this mean for us as an agency, as a content department? It means that we have completely changed the way we do content. Well, I say completely changed, but some like the best practices have remained the same, but at the same time, we have changed the way we write content. We write in a much more conversational way. We use contextual language, create scenarios so that Rufus and any AI assistant can retrieve information. So from above the fold, titles and bullet points, to below the fold, enhanced content that needs to, for example, include Q&As, to picture galleries, so images that need to have to be clean and well structured so that AI assistants can read them. And everything needs to change to ensure that the content is AI ready.
Let's go back to the SEO parallel,
Mhm.
where we've all seen, like, once again, we wordsmith this amazing web copy or product copy, and we know it's going to impact our shoppers. It's emotionally driven. We're answering their questions, addressing their objections even before they have them. And of course, they always needed to be somewhat optimized for like Amazon search engine, right? To just find them. And you take that copy, so you run it through this SEO. So what is kind of the biggest difference between copy that is just for, say, Amazon search engine or retailer search engine versus for like a Rufus?
So it's the language is itself. It needs to be much more conversational. It needs to create scenarios so that Rufus can actually. So if a shopper asks something that maybe before when we were writing content for humans, maybe it wasn't necessary to add it, but now everything is possible. So the content needs to include all of these scenarios so that they're actually answers that Rufus can retrieve.
So scenarios, that's really interesting. Yeah, so that it can put together maybe even non-intuitive connections. So like especially when you think you're going to buy a certain product to solve your issues. I had some issues with some bugs. I just moved to New Orleans last year. There's a lot of bugs. And so I thought I was going to buy a certain product. So I went on to Amazon, but I went into Rufus and I started talking about it. Rufus started actually talking about traps instead of I was going to use some sort of other stuff, but they said why not traps? They're ecologically more friendly. If you have animals like pets, like I've got a couple dogs, there's no really way for them to get into some of that nasty stuff. So for me, I can see like coming out of this, you have to be able to, and that's seems like a wild thing to optimize for. um not just exactly like keywords, but concepts. I think that
Concepts,
kind of,
exactly.
yeah, and scenarios where things could happen.
Yes, and so technology is also important. Share of Rufus is combined with share of voice now to create a visibility score. So basically, we have developed technology to enable us to audit the live content at scale. And if you can move to the next slide, please. So as an example, the Rufus dashboard. So basically what it does, and I think this is very relevant for brands, based on a predefined set of prompts that we choose strategically for a specific market, specific category, and for, let's say, four different personas, because obviously Rufus's answers change based on who is asking. We analyze how many times a brand and its products are recommended by Rufus versus competitors. So share of Rufus, which again, combined with share of voice, gives us the visibility score, and then also the Rufus score that checks the qualitative, quantitative matrix of the content and tells us how AI ready our content is. And this enables us to identify the gaps and know how to optimize content so that we increase the chances of Rufus or Sparky actually recommending the products of our brands.
And I would imagine some of this stuff is very correlated to other retailers. So if
Mhm.
it's working on Rufus or it's working on Sparky, it'll probably work for other ones. So it becomes the same kind of thing like with SEO, where if it works on Google, it'll probably work on every other search engine.
Yes, it's the new battleground, right? So we start with the big marketplaces and then move to the next ones, but definitely. And yes, just as a proof point, let's say we have done this for 77 products for a client in the technology sector. And as you can see, just optimizing just for, this is Amazon. So Just for Rufus, we've seen double-digit growth in conversion rates, traffic, and sales, and also a boost of the Rufus score, which is how AI ready is your content.
Yeah, and it couldn't be more important, especially now. And this, once again, stressing the importance of getting it done now instead of waiting for when the big wave hits, because you don't want to be the only, company in your category that's struggling with this later on when it's something that you could focus on now. So we had our first two buckets where AI is becoming a layer across existing publishers, which we're already seeing. We have the second bucket where agentic becomes its own channel and all the implications of that. And then finally, the way that GenAI is transforming the way commerce marketers do what they do. As you mentioned earlier, this is really where we see marketers embracing GenAI first. You showed off some of your tools. Where has your agency begun implementing GenAI into your own workflows?
In many areas, and we see in many areas where it can make a real difference, both for ourselves and for our clients. But at the same time, while we have automated workflows, many of them are also still AI assisted. A good example is content production. So we have an AI text generation tool that is developed and adapted to our needs. So it can take retailer specs and brand tone of voice guidelines into consideration. But this means that the output is much closer to what we need from the start, but it's always reviewed by a content specialist, and there's always QA done for the moment, at least.
Yeah. And if you think about kind of the areas that marketers have to focus on just for campaigns, from research to planning to targeting to tracking, measurement, et cetera, et cetera. We know all these areas, let alone just writing emails and doing all the other things and managing projects that you do that has changed, that Gen AI is changing the way you do all those things. It's going to impact all these things. To get a better understanding of where commerce media marketers are using Gen AI, we asked questions in our State of Retail Media report this year. If you haven't seen it, it's a great report. We survey retail media. Now, this is our fifth annual one. We did it with Stratably this year. Has a lot of good information about what folks are doing with their retail media, how they're thinking about it in the future. But yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit about the Gen AI questions we asked them. And we know that two-thirds or more are using Gen AI already within their retail media programs. But as you can see, the results are a mixed bag. Some are getting a lot of great impact, some are getting no impact. Mixed results seems to be where we're at. I'm sure that will change when we ask the same questions next year. When we ask them where specifically they see Gen AI impacting the most right now, by far, you can see efficiency gains. Mariana, I mean, is that what you're seeing at your agency? Has efficiency gone up using Gen AI?
Absolutely. Yes. It's been a real time saver from producing content to writing emails, as you just mentioned. And what I would also mention here is agents, because this has been a real game changer for us. In my team, people use more than 10 agents every day just to support different tasks. And we've seen a real boost in efficiency, especially for repetitive or operational work.
Wow. And actually, we have a slide coming up on that in just a moment.
Mm,
When we ask, where they're using and where that's changing, we want to see where the shift is coming with Gen AI usage. Of course, it started with more creative and content, um, and generating images and all the cool stuff that Gen AI can do. But as we're seeing this shift into 2026, marketers are starting to see that and realize the opportunity across the campaign lifecycle, whether it's management optimization, analytics, insights, certainly personalization and targeting. I mean, Mariana, let me hand you a magic wand right now. If you could take a leap forward in Gen AI usage for your team, which of these areas would you choose?
mm. So we already use it for content, campaign management, and analytics. So I would definitely go with personalization. And looking at it from a content lens again, it's really interesting to see how marketplaces will evolve. We actually made this fun exercise once. It's been a while. We were in a meeting room, 10 people, and we asked everyone to explain their consumer journey to buy hiking shoes and the steps they take to reach a decision. And we had 10 completely different customer journeys. Everyone did something different, and it was actually fun. So I advise everyone to try it out. We had Gen Z using blogs, and then millennials or boomers using TikTok. So it was actually fun, but it also told us a lot about personalization, right? And it's really interesting to see how that develops into a more dynamic experience with marketplaces where everyone could potentially see different product detail pages based on their profile, based on their demographics, and especially in commerce. This could be incredibly powerful because it moves us beyond the content for like a one size fits all content to an experience that is much more relevant, but of course, it comes with its own challenges of structuring content in a way that personalization is even possible. So we're not there yet, but it's really fascinating to think about it.
I was thinking about that just when you were talking about Rufus and how everyone will say see different results. And
Mm.
I don't know why I didn't think about that before, but absolutely that's actually the case. I mean, it's not just answering the same way for each and every person. It knows my entire history, what I like, what kinds of things, what brands I'm interested, what options I choose. So yeah, I didn't even think about how it's matching um to me. And of course, using it on our own programs, being able to do one-on-one target. That's and for look, I've been in this industry 25 years. We've been talking about one-to-one messaging now forever. And it feels like we're just finally getting to the point where maybe that's possible. So you just blew my mind thinking how each PDP could be completely different for each and every person and turning that over to AI. I think that's awesome. And I can't imagine how that will impact things. So you gave me something to think about there. Speaking of barriers and challenges, there's a lot. And these are some of the ones that were cited on the report. As you can imagine, lack of expertise, concern. Certainly, probably my biggest one is just concern about accuracy, reliability. We all get hallucinations every day in our AI. But there's even new issues about regulatory compliance and data sharing and security. So we will probably see, some of these fears may be assuaged over the course of the next few years as people get more used to it, more tools come, AI gets better, Gen AI gets better. But I would imagine we're also going to see, more of these barriers, and that's where kind of, an agency can really help. And what is the role that VML plays in helping your clients overcome some of these barriers to adoption?
I think the role of an agency is really to make adoption more practical, more easy, and more manageable. So we see a lot of barriers here, and most of them are very real. But this is exactly where we can help because often are the first ones to adopt these tools into our own workflows, so we can bring in that expertise and tackle things like the lack of technical expertise or questions about compliance, integrations. So overall, I would say our role is really to reduce complexity and help clients adopt Gen AI in a way that feels safe and actionable.
Yeah. What's missing on here, and we should ask, and I help write these questions, so I'll make sure to include it, but fatigue, just AI fatigue, just how many different tools are being thrown at us, how many of our current tools are changing so quickly. I just even saw something in Slack this morning about a new Google Docs feature, Google Drive feature, where you can just create awesome summaries and one sheets from your drive. So just keeping up on our current product, our current tools, and their and the Gen AI that's appearing in them, let alone the new tools and things that are being instituted by your own company. And there's just a lot going on. All right, agents. We decided to ask a question about agents. And what we asked across some of these standard marketer tasks were uh, different adoption, starting from just using it for insights, having the human in the loop, more autonomous, but with guardrails, and then full autonomy. And as we can see, uh, marketers are more ready to just be in the human loop right now. And it will start with human approval. And then we'll see this kind of shift. And as more, just as we've seen with previous generations with technology, once the Gen AI um, natives start to take over, they're going to turn a lot of their programs probably over to full autonomy. In fact, they're going to wonder why those of us in right now aren't turning more didn't turn more of our programs over to AI so that they could focus on more of the added value and the creative work. All right. Key takeaways from this research. Adoption is high, impact is still unclear. It's probably all across the board. And even with an organization, probably some areas you're doing really well, some areas you're not sure if you're doing well. The use cases are shifting, started with, just creative, and now it's moving to all parts of the campaign life cycle. Trust, skills, that's where the real blockers are. Luckily, if you're working with VML, they can help you with that. Efficiency is where it's all starting, but we know that AI has a tremendous opportunity to impact performance, which is what we're all chasing anyway. And then autonomy with agents, we know the agentic area is almost upon us. There's a lot of, like you said, your team is already using agents. We're starting to use agents here. And so while full autonomy is not what everyone's yet prepared for and okay with, I would imagine very quickly that's going to shift and that we are going to turn over more of our marketing programs to full autonomy. All right, so where's all this going? I told you I'd simplify things into three buckets. I think we did that. So let's revisit those. We have a layer across existing commerce publishers, the ones you already know, the ones you already love. AI is already showing up there. Agentic becoming a new marketing channel, although not here yet. It's something you should prepare for. And of course, we're already being impacted and being bombarded by workflow tools to save time, increase performance. So AI, let's start with the first one. AI as a layer across existing publishers. Look, there's new ad formats. I mean, just the fact that things are happening inside Rufus and Sparky right now is kind of wild, and how that's going to change. And like you said, you need to change your PDP copy and your content copy just to feed those things, let alone I can imagine who knows how those ad algorithms work yet. I mean, probably none of us know. So we're going to have to learn over time. Uh, Autonomous optimization, we know that these are going to be handed off to AI systems. It's going to be very important for you to test, for you to learn, for you to really figure out where you do this and how you do this. Mariana, creative tools that we use across the board, imagery, ad copy, certainly
Mm.
video produced at scale. What's your thoughts on this?
They can really boost efficiency. So it's really important, especially in commerce, where brands need so many variations of copy, imagery, videos across platforms, and at the same time remain consistent, right? But yeah, the big opportunity with that is definitely speed and scale. But at the same time, there is a trust issue for the moment, I would say. But yeah, who knows how this will evolve? And the compliance one. So brands have clear rules around AI generated assets, and transparency means a lot. And let's see also how this will evolve and how transparent this will be towards shoppers in the future.
Yeah, I'm reading more and more that shoppers want to even know when a
Exactly.
commercial is AI generated.
Hmm.
Want to know, I feel like it's like, is there a soul behind this thing, or was it just generated by computers? So that's kind of interesting. And of course, with all these new ad formats and AI enhancements, we're going to need smarter measurement. We're going to have to learn how publishers are using AI so that we can use it with them. And every commerce channel and every channel will get this AI layer. So things, while are going to change dramatically, the landscape will look the same. It's just it'll be all AI influenced. In terms of the agentic channel, where are we going? Look, it's already disrupting the customer journey. AI is already inserting itself, maybe not yet as much in the advertising portion, but certainly in the marketing area. We're going to see ads within AI. We're going to see AI driven ads. We're going to see AI generate, and in all parts of this. So it's going to be something that your new agentic commerce team will need to really understand. Also, agents are going to be shopping. I mean, so it's not even something that we can control. It's the way that consumers are going to be, when the new, I've already thought about it for like tickets to concerts. You know how sometimes they sell out within 30 minutes, and some people are on the line, waiting, to press that button. Why not have your AI agents do that? Mariana, you have some thoughts about AI agent as buyers and how that impacts marketers?
It's a quite interesting one, and your example actually is it's spot on, right? Um, and you've said it before. We've seen OpenAI launching checkout in September, canceling it earlier in March. I think, yeah, we're at the early stages of it because it's easier. Once you move into the transaction layer, you also move into the trust issues or compliance, returns, discounts. So discovery is easier, let's say, for the moment to solve. But yes, agents as buyers, it's coming, and we just need to figure out the operational side of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're already marketing to people. Now you got to market to compute to robots. It's a lot to think about. Certainly visibility is changing, like we've already talked about today, and that that path to purchase. I can't tell you. That's really where I am focused most on thinking about these days. How, as you mentioned, hiking boots, the different teams going from different places, blogs and social media, and searching for things and word of mouth. Imagine that all gets compressed into a 5-minute conversation with ChatGPT, and you're not able to reach people like you could across the path to purchase. So that's changing. And then certainly, as we're saying, be ready, be ready, be ready, because if you're out there first, you can possibly gain. I mean, think about if you're, especially if you're in like a subscription category where, once somebody locks in onto your product, they're going to buy it every month. I can't imagine how important that is to really master these AI formats and be ready. And then from workflows, what we're seeing, we're going to go from assisted agents where we are now. For those of you that are Sky clients, Celeste falls in there, to personalized agents. So agents that really understand you. And some people think we're going to have this agent with us at all times, like in science fiction, that is with us in our personal life, our professional life, knows our thoughts, our habits, the things that we like, and is always kind of there helping us. I kind of do this because I feel like on your shoulder, kind of helping you make every decision. And then eventually autonomous agents. And these are not automated agents where you set rules and things like this. This is truly just out there on your behalf, as a marketer, doing the things that you know that need to happen, and doing them probably better than you can. So while all this is fantastic, let me just give you a bit of word of caution, especially for the pilots that you're doing in-house, because pretty much every company we know is building AI tools. MIT did a report that came out late last year that 95% of generative AI pilots are failing at companies, and here were some of the reasons why. So, just a quick list of potential areas that could get you in trouble here. So, no success metrics. I think any project will fail if you don't define success. But certainly with these generative AI pilots, as fast as people are trying to put them out, the employees are demanding them, leadership is demanding them. So there's a lot of pressure to push these out. And so they go from demo to deployment without any idea of how to operationalize them, how to improve them, how to get feedback. Certainly not, maybe not the right budgets, some tool that we whipped up quickly and haven't really fully invested. And certainly a lot of companies are saying, hey, we can build these things ourselves. We have the tools, we can vibe code, we can do all sorts of cool stuff. But, internal builds fail twice more often than when you use a specialized vendor partnership. And of course, no ownership. We push these things out to our employees, and maybe the developer was put in charge of it, but who's really making sure that everyone's using them? And of course, not supported. We put these out. We love it. We're so glad that we put something out very quickly. We're super happy about it, but no one's really ensuring that they're supported like a real feature would, with training, use cases, adoption plans, etc. All right, what to do? Mariana, we got a speed round, 5 tips for this new era to get yourself Gen AI ready that will sum up everything we've talked about, and I'm sure will spark some ideas for you. So, first one, audit your commerce content for AI readiness. Look across all the content that you have, web copy, PDP copy, anything that you can control. And are you ready for AI? And what does that even mean?
Just this is really important. It's really the starting point. Before brands think about new channels or new tools, they need to understand the quality of the content they already have live today. So this means looking at titles, images, taxonomy across marketplaces and identifying gaps and inconsistency. because content needs to be structured clearly, needs to be complete so that AI systems interpret it correctly and surface the products.
And, do you even have a POV on what this means? Are you making your PDPs more scenario ready, more conversational? So you need to have a good, strong POV on what this means. What about for GEO? Are your web pages showing up in these answer engines already? Do you even have tools to track those and measure the impact and track if you make optimizations and changes, are those even having an impact? Another one, of course, don't wait for the perfect playbook. As I said, previous innovation cycles more in a step pattern. This is just going, there's no pause, there's nothing, Mariana, that we can wait for.
Yeah, this is really important because the brands who will wait for the perfect playbook, they will be left behind. The space is evolving too quickly. And even as an agency, we test and learn every day. And these playbooks, they're living documents. So brands may not have everything set up, but they need to start today if they haven't already started. Audits, small tests, and understanding how they show up in these AI-driven environments.
One of my favorite quotes ever is Voltaire: don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And right now, we're already in it. If you don't have some of these practices fully fleshed out and ready to go, you're already behind. Um, and as in our paradigm, treat AI both as a new commerce channel that's emerging and growing and thinking about what that's going to mean to your future, as well as a layer across your current publishers.
Very important as well, brands need to prepare both for new discovery environments, but also make sure that their content and media and workflows are ready for this new AI layer across the existing marketplaces.
And then your teams, you've got to make sure they're AI fluent, they're AI embracing, they're not just AI curious or waiting for you to push things on them.
Again, important, AI curious is a good start, but yes, teams need to be AI fluent. And we've seen great results with trainings and workshops. Interactive workshops really help with that.
And finally, trust your existing commerce media publishers to lead the way. They have the most to lose, they have the most to win, they have the biggest engineering teams. They've been thinking about this for some time and behind the scenes. So when some of these things pop up with your current existing publishers, really take them to heart and embrace them as part of your commerce media program.
Really like this point. Yes, brands don't have to build the whole playbook from scratch. They can trust the big publishers that are already moving fast and making a lot of efforts and investments to have the expertise in this sector.
Well, there you go. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to get to some more questions. Dasha, we've got a feedback we'd like to push to the attendees so that we can continue to put on great webinars and improve the content we're doing.